Hi there, I'm Terry Pappy, and it's nice to be here again with another tip video. And today, what I want to talk to you about is don't be so obvious about your sales process. I got a story that I want to share with you about a networking event that I went to recently. I had a really interesting experience. And I go to this networking event, and it was a small group, maybe about, 30 people. It was in a little gallery. It was a nice little setup. And they had two sponsors. One was like a wine catering type sponsor, and the other one was I don't even know how to explain it. It was some type of debt recovery service or something. Anyway, and I had actually met one of the gals that worked for the debt company before at another networking event. And I guess it was her mentor that was hosting one of the sponsors. Anyway, so that was kind of the setup. So I get there, I'm there with a couple of my girlfriends and doing some networking, and sign in, give my business card, get my little name tag, and go walking around. And I met the sponsor, and this is the guy that was the mentor of the gal that I knew they were in the same business, but they didn't necessarily work together. It's complicated. I don't even understand it myself. Anyway, so he comes up to me. He says, "Hey, I'm Billy. Terry, how are you? What do you do?" Typical networking intro. And I explained what I did, and I also mentioned that I was a writer as part of that. And he goes, "Oh my God!" He got all excited. "You're a writer? Oh, this is great. I've been working on this book idea for like years." He says, "But I'm a terrible writer. Could you write it for me?" And I'm like, I just met this guy, right? So I'm like, I kind of laughed and I said, "No." He says, "That's not the kind of writing I do." I said, "However, I have a partner who is a dedicated ghostwriter, and she's fabulous. And I'd be more than happy to introduce you so you can actually use her to get your book done." And I'm thinking, this is great. This is why we network, right? We get to meet people and, we help them out with not only our network, but whatever the situation is. That's the great thing about it, right? You want to build relationships. If you're not a direct fit with that person, then maybe you know someone who is. That's the fun thing about networking, even when you do it digitally. So he's like, "Oh, no, I want to work with you." And I said, "Okay." I'm like, is this guy like hitting on me or something? I'm like, I didn't understand why he was just like off the bat so like eager. So anyway, it was so funny. Oh my gosh, I wish you were there. So I said, "No," I said, I really don't do that, Billy. My ghostwriter she's fabulous." And he said, "Well, I want to work with you." And I said, "Well, I'll help like with marketing and things like that, but I'm not going to write your book for you." And he's like, "Oh, all right. And I'm like thinking he's all interested, right? So we part ways and go off and do more networking. Well, one of his associates, a girl who works for him, actually left me a voicemail the next day saying, "Oh, Billy wants to meet with you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is probably about the whole ghostwriter thing." And I called her back. Excuse me. I called her back and I said, "What is the meeting about?" Just to clarify, because I'm like super busy and I'm not just going to drop everything and go meet with somebody unless, I know more about it. So she says, "Well, I don't know." Okay, that was the first clue, right? I don't know. And she said, I'll get with Billy and I'll get back to you." And so I said, "Well, just so you know, if this is about like his business, I already know this other person. And, if I was to work with anybody doing that work, I would probably work with her since I already knew her." And she's like, "All right, well, I'll let him know and I'll get back to you on what he wants to do." Because I offered a phone call instead. I said, "Why don't we just have a phone call just to find out, kind of where each other is?" Because, sometimes when you go to those networking events, you don't really get a chance to get deep into a conversation because usually you're in a group of people and you know how it is. That's why I'm not a huge fan of in-person networking. It's more of like fun to do every now and again, but don't build your business on it because it's not the most effective way to actually build your network. Anyway, so I waited, for another 6 hours or so, and I get a text from her. I didn't even get a call back. I didn't get an email, and they had all my information. She didn't know anything about me, and she could have easily spent 2 minutes on Google trying to figure all this out. And so she was basically an appointment setter for him. She had no idea what he wanted to meet about. She had to find out. Well, apparently she texted me back and said, "Okay, I explained it to Billy, and he says, since you're working with blah, blah already, then he's he'll pass. He's not interested. And I was like, really? You know? So it kind of left me with a sour taste in my mouth because it was very obvious what he was doing. You know, he was meeting these people, he was spending 2 seconds with them, not really asking the right questions about where their pain is or getting to know them as a person. Like, be a human being, for Christ's sake. If you're right there in front of somebody, have a more engaging conversation with them. And then he has his admin, doesn't even do any research, doesn't even look into what I'm about, doesn't even, I mean, it just like, it floored me that I could be dismissed so easily when, if we spend a little time together getting to know each other, I could have been referring him as well as this other person that I work with. It just blew my mind that somebody could be that careless about a potential relationship. Now, I'm not saying I'm like, Richard Branson, for crying out loud, but I'm somebody who can help people and who knows people, and I love referring people who are good at what they do. So it just kind of left me with this weird, like, that was such an obvious sales, like, tactic, where it's like, do the networking event, glad I had somebody, get some business cards, have my admin follow up, schedule a face-to-face call, and then we'll take it from there. And I'm like, okay, well, you can do that. I mean, obviously you have to facilitate sales in some way, but put a little more time into it. Invest a little bit more of your personality and your humanness into building these relationships. Because here's the thing, I've actually got a much worse taste in my mouth about this person, about their business. And if it ever comes up in the future, I may not be so inclined to say something positive. I mean, look at me. Here I am making a video about it. And I don't like doing that. But the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I want you to take a look at your process. Are your prospects having the same kind of takeaway? Do they feel like they're being manipulated or put into a funnel or kind of going through the same chutes and ladders that everybody else is going through, as opposed to being very specific about getting to know them and making them feel like a real person? And this is where we are headed, people. If you are in this business, if you're doing this kind of work, people want to be recognized and appreciated and acknowledged for who they are. And that is a trust builder right there. So if you're not doing that, if you're not leveraging digital means, if you're not leveraging hand-to-hand, face-to-face type of interactions, or getting on the phone and actually having a conversation, then it's going to be that much harder to actually build your prospect database and get people into your world where you can start building those relationships. So just kind of step back and take a look at how you're doing things, and don't be so obvious. Anyway, I hope that tip was helpful and and my story was funny and made you laugh. And this is why I never run out of stuff to shoot these videos on, because I have the funniest experiences. Anyway, have a great day, and thanks for watching. I'm Terry at Better3.